Welcome back. We are with Christchurch Mayoral candidate Jim Anderton. We'll whip through a few extraneous issues before we look at campaign issues. I'm intrigued that you've chosen to run on your own ticket as People's Mayor and not as 2021's formalised flag carrier. Will you and 2021 share a joint policy platform?
No, 2021 will have their own policies, and I've got the luxury of being able to make mine up. And I don't imagine that there'll be much clashes, but if there is, that's fine. It's a free country. I'll be supporting 2021 candidates, but I'll also be supporting some independents who I think will make a contribution around the council table too. I mean, I'm old enough and experienced enough in politics to know that at a local government level, people don't like, quote, party politics, end quote. Now, the truth is, politics are involved at local government level. I can tell you that for absolute certainty. But people have the perception that they're not, and perception is 9/10 of the law in politics. So I don't want to muck up the perceptions of people. People know me well enough. I'm not going to be able to change their view of me in the next 4 or 5 months. So here I am. Am I independent? Well, ask the Labor Party people in the 80s and tell you how independent I am.
But is the perception now that you are actually the 2021 mayoral candidate in everything but name?
Well, I can tell you that I'm not consulting 2021 about my policies. I'm making them as we go along. I've thought about it. I know what I think is necessary for the city, and I'll be announcing those as we go along. One important announcement tomorrow, actually. But I am acting as an independent candidate. If I'd wanted to stand as 2021, I could have. Yeah. 2021 were reasonably keen for that to happen, and I said no. If you want to choose your own candidate, you're entitled to do that, but I have decided that I should stand as independent and give the very clear impression, and it reflects the reality, as I do in Wigram. I'm standing for everyone. I have people come to my office and say, oh, well, I didn't vote for you, Mr. Anderton, but I wonder whether you'd help me. I said, well, look, I don't care whether you vote for me or not. What's the problem? And I fix it. I know damn well that they're going to vote for me forever on. I don't have to say it. Sure. I'm not that silly.
Well, for a while, it appeared that Sir Kerry could be bleeding potential votes from you in the mayoral race. He seems to have been talked around. Were you involved in any reconciliation process?
Oh, I've spoken to Kerry, and Kerry's rung me. And I've spoken to a lot of people in Christchurch, I can assure you, from all sides of the political spectrum, some of them quite surprising, and I'll be speaking to a lot more over the next 3 or 4 months. But Kerry's made a decision, I think, which unifies the direction that a number of candidates, independent or not, are taking, that this city wants change. They want the council to be trusted again. They want an accessible council. They want to be listened to. They want a kind of integrated and inclusive approach from the council, and that goes right across the board actually in a number of areas.
When he quit though a few weeks ago, he bagged 2021, claiming, quote, it had lost the breadth of opinion it contained a decade ago and was increasingly intertwined with parliamentary agendas, which is clearly with reference to you. Is he right about 2021?
Well, what's my parliamentary agenda? I've said that I'm retiring at the next election, so I can hardly have a long-term parliamentary agenda. I've had a lot of experience in the city. I know it pretty well, not as well as someone who's been here for 100 years, but I know what's needed. I'm not arrogant about it, but I've looked carefully at what's needed in the city. I know what to do, and I know how it can be done. So I'm committing myself to the city, not to Parliament. And my experience in Parliament is over virtually. Although Mr. Key didn't think so on Tuesday when I asked him about Kiwi Bank. Yeah.
Why not quit now from Parliament?
Well, here's the thing, and I don't think people fully comprehend this. I've still got work to do in Parliament. I'm working on a major policy on dental care for the whole of New Zealand. I've got a passion about dental care because I know that it's the Cinderella of the health system, and the problems that are being created by lack of dental care for kids and for elderly people in our community and everywhere in between is monumental. And
but you're not a minister. How can you get that through?
Well, I'm preparing this policy for another party that might actually have a chance of becoming the government, and I know more about it than practically anyone else in there except Annette King, who was a dental nurse in a previous life. But I'm working very hard on it with dentists and others, and I want to finish that. And there are 1 or 2 other things. I've been working on projects in housing. I've just got this is not public knowledge, but I was working on some housing for young people in Christchurch, and Nahoe Whā had some empty sections, and they wanted something done with them, and they were prepared prepared to help, so they donated the land. We had $1 million given by Canterbury Trust, and they're going to build some homes there for young people who, in the working community, can't find decent accommodation. So there's a lot of things I'm doing. But let's get to the point of the by-election. If by the time, and I might lose, so, you know, I've still got a life in Parliament, that's fine, and I've got important work to do if I'm there.
Is that an insurance policy then?
Well, it's like I've got things I want to do. I'm never idle. People think, oh, if I retired tomorrow, I'd go out and play golf and look after the garden. Well, ask my wife. She knows better. And she wouldn't know what to do with me if I started doing that, actually. But what I want to do is something for Christchurch. But in the meantime, here are the facts. If I win the mayoralty in October, it's November before the first meeting comes. So you're doing a bit of preparation, that's fine. Then you have a meeting in November, or maybe one, possibly two, and then one or two in December. Then, like everyone else in New Zealand, including Parliament, closes down until February.
Sure.
And so you come back in February. If you haven't had a by-election in December, which is not a great time, you come back in February. If the by-election is held then, and there's an early Parliament, an early election. There's a thing called the Rugby World Cup next year, and it wouldn't surprise me if there's an early election. Go early. And if they did, it would be less than 6 months before between the by-election and the general election. And guess what? There would be no by-election because under the rules at the moment. So Wigram would be without an MP at all. That's one thing worse than having a part-time MP, and that's having none at all.
Between now and October, though, are you going to be more focused on the mayoralty or Parliament? Here's
the thing, you know. I've never wanted to really say this publicly because some of my colleagues won't be all that impressed, but when I was a minister for 9 years, I got up at 5:45 in the morning, I was at work at 6:30, and I left at 11:30. Work it out, 9 years. No one was at my office before me. That wasn't my intention, but that was a fact. No one was there while I was still there, they'd all left. And everyone says that. So you'd have to say the description workaholic goes reasonably well with me. I had 7 ministerial portfolios at one time. I was a minister for about 13 or 14 different portfolios over the time I was there in the ministry. So I had 17, 18-hour days. Now, being a backbench member of Parliament...
You've got time on your side.
...is sort of like having a bit of a holiday, to me. I'm not saying that someone going into Parliament can't learn the ropes, but I've been there 27 years, so I've got that going for me, and I've only got a short time. I may only have a few months to be in both places.
All right.
And I reckon I can do it.
Just a quick question, I've got to go to the break, but the Dominion Post editorial referred to the ability of incumbent MPs to essentially use their electorate resources and machinery to bolster other pursuits, in this case the mayoralty. For example, this may sound glib, but if I called you on your parliamentary funded cell phone with a mayoral inquiry, would you take my call or would you call me back on your home line?
Well, here's the problem you've got. I would say, and I have had calls, of course I have, and in my electorate office as well. And here's the problem. Most of the calls that you get are about issues that people could discuss with me quite legitimately as an MP. It might be housing matters, it might be the fact that the next door neighbours are not being looked at by the council because they're chopping down their trees or whatever it is.
Sure.
Now, it seems local, but actually I get those calls all the time. So how do you differentiate between, oh, I'd only deal with that if I was a mayoral candidate? You chop yourself in half and say the top half is the mayoral candidate and the bottom half, or vice versa, is the parliamentary.
Is that the perception problem, where you are straddling two horses here?
No perception for me, because all of these calls are about helping people in need. And that's the job I signed up for as a parliamentarian, and that's what I'll do regardless of where I am.
We'll be back with Jim Anderton. Do stay with us.